Hmm.
and they'll work it out.
You really positive about that?
Yeah,
Well, that's nice. But it seems like that they're hating each other. All right. Okay, let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is April 8th. Welcome our dear friend Tom. Tom, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Good to be here.
Thank you so much. So nice to see you after 2 weeks. Really miss you. And then we have so many big news during these 2 weeks. But first thing first, this couple of days, there is the hottest topic that we cannot avoid. It's China and America. So I just saw that White House said additional 104% tariffs on China will go into effect tomorrow. Actually, it's tonight, 12 at midnight. So it looks like right now either US or China is not going to back down. So what will be the outcome of this development? Will these two countries break off diplomatic relations, or it could end up at a war, or it has a solution? What do you think?
I think it has a solution that we haven't seen yet, and they'll arrive at it, during their negotiations and discussions behind closed doors. I
Mhm.
think neither country wants to be in a trade war with the other.
Mhm.
So I think that, you have all of this rhetoric and threats and oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. So I think we'll see. We'll see how much of this is going to really go on for a long time. You
Well,
notice that I think the bigger issue, especially for China,
mhm.
is that, you know, Trump announces all of these tariffs that are going to go into effect,
Right,
all of these countries. And he says in the beginning, we're only putting the same amount of tariff on each country that they're putting on us.
right,
So we just want to level this out, and that's
mhm,
what we're going to do.
right,
And I think these other countries thought, oh, he doesn't mean it. He's bluffing. He's just negotiating. And then all of a sudden they realize, yeah, he's negotiating and he means it. And
hmm,
so now all of a sudden, all of these countries are changing their story and going, oh, we want to negotiate. We don't want to have this. We want to eliminate the tariffs on our end also. So I think that what Trump is doing is forcing the other side in all of the, whether it's Europe or in Asia or wherever to suddenly realize he's not going to back down.
right,
You know, the size of the vote that he got to restore fairness in the economies, he's using that and it's working. So I
hmm,
think that I think it's too early. And I think the Democrats really want to say, oh, this is not going to work and we're going to pay higher taxes and higher prices and oh, this is terrible. And then all of a sudden it's working.
hmm,
Slowly but surely, the countries that are saying that they're not going to buckle are buckling.
hmm,
And, so I think it's too soon now to say what the final outcome will be in the weeks and months ahead.
hmm.
But so far, it appears that Trump knows what he's doing.
Right. Right. Well, that's a good sign. It seems like China and America are like head to head. Nobody wants to back down. So China said, okay, if you do that, we will do this, another 50%. And then Trump said, okay, you add another 50%. Let's go to 104%. So see who is back down the first. So what do you think who's going to go back the first? Well, China right now, within China, there are a very strong force of the emotion that's that American want to kill us and we're going to fight to death. So in this intention, very intense of relationship or the atmosphere, so what can we do?
I think we just stand by and it appears to me that what Trump's doing is working. The
Mhm.
other countries want to come they're lining up to come to the negotiating table
Right.
with him
Uh-huh.
with the idea of dropping their tariffs because Trump has already said, you drop yours, we'll drop ours. We're only going to keep it if you keep your tariffs and hurt our economy, then we're going to do the same to you.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
think right now it appears that Trump has kind of the upper negotiating hand at this point.
mhm. So you predict that China will somehow go back a little bit,
I
right?
think, yeah, I don't think China's going to want these tariffs. Trump did it before in the first term with agriculture and some of the other issues,
Mhm,
and China backed down on that. So I think that they're looking at Trump as he's gonna do what he says,
mhm,
and he's not a normal politician that isn't going to do what he promises. And I think they realize it, and they don't want to have this continue, especially because China's economy is in a lot of trouble on its own.
mhm,
So So I think that's a little bit too soon, but I think the other issue is going to be the other 50 countries that are lining up to make a
right,
deal with Trump. I think that's the bigger issue here
mhm,
is that you have all of these other countries
mhm,
ready to drop their tariffs. And it's Europe and many of the other countries are realizing this is going to backfire on them if they don't drop
mhm,
their tariffs, which will force the
mhm,
US to drop its tariffs. So that's all
mhm,
Trump has been saying from the beginning.
mhm,
And it certainly doesn't appear that Trump is lying or Trump is bluffing, that no matter what they do, we're going to keep US tariffs. No,
mhm,
I don't think that's what's going to happen. And I
mhm,
think these other countries realize that now.
mhm. So yeah, the one purpose of the issue is Trump wants to bring the manufacturing back to the US. I just have a question. If so many people have the zero tariffs with US and because it's like equal tariffs, if they give us zero, we give them zero. So the manufacturing will still stay in their country, not coming
No,
back.
no, that's part of the deal. That if goods are manufactured elsewhere and brought into the United States, the tariffs apply, no matter what the other country does. So
Oh,
the
oh,
manufacturing had the exemption to the tariffs is you make the goods in the United States,
ah,
period. So you
okay,
have all of these, before the election, you had a number of car plants that were going to be built in Mexico,
right.
other plants that were going to be built in Canada, and all of that has stopped.
Mhm,
And many of these manufacturers have said, just on the basis that this might happen when Trump got elected, they already announced, okay, we're not going to build our plant in Mexico. We're not going to build our cars there.
okay.
We're going
Mhm.
to build them in the United States because we don't want to have to pay the huge tariffs.
Right. Okay. So this is a good. So what do you think about the whole thing, the tariffs thing? Do you think it's long overdue to American people, or this is more too aggressive? What do you feel?
I don't think it's too aggressive. I think it's he's trying to rectify years and years of unfair trade with
Right.
all of these countries, China, Canada, Mexico, Europe.
Mhm,
And he has said repeatedly, even you look at the stats for Canada, the
mhm,
billions of dollars that they make in selling goods in the United States and charging tariffs to the United States.
mhm.
And Trump's basically saying, all right, you do it to us, we're going to do it to you.
Right.
And we're
Right.
going to outlast everybody. And I think now they're looking at it like, yeah, he's probably going to outlast everybody.
Mhm. It seems like Wall Street people don't like the idea, and the stock market is just dropped. So what do you think
That's
about that?
just that goes up and down every day. I
It's not a
wouldn't
big
put a
deal.
lot of overemphasis on what the stock market does. And most of the traders know,
Mhm,
this is all temporary anyway.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
don't, most people, the actual real traders day to day, they know this is not something to get too excited about.
Hmm. So some people just make articles about that and said, okay, this is not ideal. Trump, you have to stop that. You just,
No, and some people are looking at this like, the stock market drop that we've had in the past, week or so.
right.
They've been waiting for that because now they're going to buy stock because the
Yeah.
price is down.
Hmm.
So they're going to make money because they know within a week or two or a month, stock prices will go back up like they do. They typically go up and down. And when they go back up, they're going to make money.
Hmm. Exactly. exactly. And I know that the Congress have a hearing today, actually this morning, about the tariff issue. So maybe it's just a regular hearing, not big deal. Well,
Well,
think
I don't think it's a big deal no matter what. What's Congress going to do right now? And I think they realize that,
right.
that Trump is doing all of this. And then on top of that, just today you
Mhm.
have and yesterday you have Trump winning some of
Yeah,
the big Supreme Court cases that he's been saying we're going to win,
yeah.
including that they are going to send Tren de Aragua gang members to Venezuela or El Salvador or both.
Hmm.
And that all of this thing, they're going to go to the Supreme Court, and the judge in Washington that tried to block it, he's been defeated.
Right.
He's been the law that Trump was using going back to the 1890s has been reinforced, has been upheld yet again. And it's been upheld over the years in the past, and now the same thing. So I think that many of these liberal judges are starting to realize that they're not going to be upheld with every crazy decision they come up with, or every time they're flexing their political muscles
Mhm.
that they don't really have.
Right.
And so I think that that's yet again, Trump is winning on many of these issues.
Right. Right. It's actually a big win.
It's a big win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. We're waiting for that win for a long time.
Well,
And
and exactly, you haven't had, the only situation that you've had of a president standing up to or standing up to the Supreme Court is Biden not going along with their decisions about student loans
mhm,
and
yeah.
saying, "Well, I don't care what they say,
Hmm.
we're still gonna do what we do."
Hmm.
But in Trump's case, um, they could say all they want. The Supreme Court's not in a position, and I think that most constitutional scholars realize that a district court judge cannot make rulings that affect the whole country's national security issues. That constitutionally, that's the president's power.
Exactly.
So the idea that this judge, says, okay, bring those Venezuelan gang members back, bring them home, bring them here. They basically said, no, sorry, we're not doing that.
Right.
Or
Right.
no, not even sorry. No, we're not doing that,
Uh,
period.
There's
And
there's no
that's
song.
where the issue comes in. This judge thinking he can set national and international national security policy and tell Trump, you bring those, go to Venezuela, go to El Salvador and bring them back.
Mhm.
And Trump like, no,
Yeah,
not happening.
yeah, yeah. And then I know that some congressmen try to impeach the Washington D.C. Judge. So do you think it possible?
I don't know. The fact that it's not been done before, but you
Right.
haven't had judges do this kind of decision making,
Mhm.
uh, basically usurping the power of the executive of the president
Mhm.
because this guy wants to.
Yeah,
I'm going to set foreign policy for the United States,
yeah. It's
and
like who's the
and
president?
members of Congress are saying you don't have that power. You're
Right.
not going to do it.
Yeah. I wish they can impeach one or two of them and just give the example of if you surpass your authority, what going to happen? Because judge is not above the law. No, he's not
I
above the law.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It may come to that.
Well, that's good. So we're waiting for that. Thank you so much. And also for I think it's a big news about the DOJ reveals that the Trump assassination in Florida, his name is Ray Routh, and find out he tried to purchase a missile from a Ukraine to take out Trump. So I think this is a very important finding, which he has some connection with Ukraine people. And also he planned to spend about $50,000 to $80,000 on the missile. Where this money comes from? This guy cannot even pay his part of the children's support. And
They,
also, this guy discussed July assassination attempt in Pennsylvania before his attempt in September. So, who is he?
I think that's a good question, and it's going to see now if the FBI and the Department of Justice start to release more of these
Right,
documents and more of the evidence that they have that has not happened in the past and did not happen under Biden. So I
right.
think that much of this is going to be released at some point here in the near future.
Yeah, it's well, when I read that, I know this is gonna happen, but it still scare me because this man is not like a one-man operation. He has some powerful force behind him. So even Trump is in White House right now. Is the force disappear? No. The force wants to kill Trump, still there. Um, so what do you think going to be
Yeah, it
next?
is still there. And you look at the like cartel members in Mexico
Mhm,
walking around, being filmed by new TV news crews, carrying javelin missiles, carrying very sophisticated $1 million pieces of equipment that can shoot down aircraft easily and do all of these type of things. And that's all a result of how crooked Ukraine is and how much equipment we've sent to them during the Biden administration and how much of that equipment's been stolen and is now for sale in international markets
mhm,
or they give it away. So
mhm.
these cartels making billions of dollars in their drug trafficking operations and other smuggling operations
Right.
have no problem purchasing $1 million weapon
Mhm,
and then parading it around, walking around in
mhm,
public with it. So
mhm,
I think that, the question there is going to be how patient will the Trump administration be in dealing with these cartels? Because at some point they're training with special forces of the Mexican army,
mhm,
and deep down, Mexico doesn't want these cartels having that much power and that much weaponry to
mhm.
shoot down their equipment.
Right.
So, that's going to be another one, whether to what extent we end up invading Mexico. Right
Oh,
now, the idea that we could, but I think at some point that may happen because they're already training with
mm,
Mexican army members. Special forces from Mexico are training with special forces from the United States. And, the idea is that we're going to go into Mexico to help them try to free up their country, and that may happen.
that's a good news, and that's new, to me at least. So, in your opinion, that how powerful the cartel is in Mexico? Can they just take down the government army? How powerful they are?
Very powerful. And as a result of that, Mexico is almost a failed state. That's how much power that these illegal organizations, the cartels and others, exert and enough to intimidate their government. And we'll see how long. And at some point here, what we don't know behind the scenes, Trump, I'm sure, are having negotiations, the
Mhm,
Pentagon having negotiations with the government of Mexico,
mhm,
saying, that we're gonna come in and excuse me one second.
mhm,
We're going to come in and help you become a state, a government that's not out of control or out of power. And I
mhm.
think that's where they're at right now is that based on help from the United States, the Mexican government might be able to stand up stronger against the cartels
Sure.
and uh, and fight with them, basically put them down.
Sure, sure. It is actually, when you think about that, it's very dangerous to America too. There is a strong military force that may be stronger than Mexico government military. So this is not good news to American as well. And
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, I'm just very curious that how these powerful cartel military comes from, how they grow up so strong in front of Mexico government, right?
Yeah,
Government
because of
looks
the
smart.
money that is involved in the illegal activity that they conduct, including drug trafficking,
Mhm,
people smuggling, um, people trafficking, many of the things. They're engaged in these activities that make millions and millions of dollars, and that's what gives them the power that they have. So that's the big issue for Mexico is that these cartels are more powerful than the Mexican military.
Right.
and have more political power as a result of it than the government in Mexico City.
Mhm.
And the government, obviously it's been a socialist government, it's a socialist country.
Mhm.
And but at some point, the people running that socialist country want to be able to keep running it. And they know right now the cartels, they're operating the government at the permission of the cartels, basically. And in
Mhm.
order to bring down the cartels, if they really get serious about it, they're going to want U.S. military help to do it.
Right, right. So basically, if we talk about responsibility, the Mexican government has the responsibility to allow this cartel become so powerful. Could we say that?
Yeah, yeah, they have. And the interesting during Trump's first administration,
Mhm.
uh, his son-in-law
Mhm.
negotiated on his behalf with the government of Mexico to allow the stay in place, to allow if you apply for asylum, you have to stay in Mexico to do
Right,
it,
right,
to allow for the Mexican government to put 25,000 troops at the U.S. border, to
right.
allow and force the Mexican government to do more to block these
Mhm.
caravans leaving Central America into into southern Mexico on their way to the United States. So all of those things that were done during Trump's first term were actually negotiated by Trump's son-in-law. He had a big, big part of negotiating with the Mexican government behind the scenes, which resulted in the Mexican government putting all these policies in effect to help the United States,
Mhm.
from their military at the border to, the stay in Mexico policies. All of those things were eliminated almost overnight by Biden.
Mhm.
The stay in
Right,
Mexico. No, you come into the United States and apply for asylum, and we'll hear your case in 10 years and all of this. And when we give you a court date, you better come back in 10 years on that day and be there and all of that, which wasn't happening. And so, pretty much Mexico went back. And a big question was, if Trump gets reelected, they have a new president in Mexico, and that she's supposed to be even more socialist than the last
right.
one. Are we going to
She
get the same concessions, the same policies from the Mexican government that
right,
Trump had during his first administration? And what we're
right.
seeing now and what I'm reading, the U.S. Army is training with Mexican Army, with their special forces. A lot of things are happening even more aggressively
Right,
together than we
right,
had the first Trump term.
right, right,
So
right.
that's all tremendous news for the people of the United States. And it's not just the people trafficking and coming across the border, or the fentanyl being brought into the United States. All of those issues are huge issues. And so far, the Mexican government is going along with much of what the United States government wants them to do.
Hmm. So maybe we're talking about the 52 state.
Maybe.
This this is
Because,
mhm.
a number of factories that were already underway, the planning and the blueprints and everything were already set for huge construction projects in Mexico over the past couple of years. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, when Trump gets in and says, we're going to tariff you, you put those plants in Mexico. If you want to come into the United States, you want your autos sold in the United States without penalty, without tariffs, make
Mhm.
them in the United States.
Right.
Build the plants here, hire American workers,
Mhm.
have those projects completed, and then you won't have any tariffs.
Right.
And most of these major automakers are doing just that.
Mhm.
They're saying, okay, we're going to do that.
Mhm. So it's not good news to Mexico government. What a waste for them, right? There are so
Right.
many manufacturers plan to have a huge factories in Mexico. We'll bring the employees and everything and booming the economies in Mexico. All of a sudden, because of the tariff in America, so they have to withdraw everything in Mexico. So what a loss for Mexican government.
Well, maybe. We don't know how many Mexicans will be allowed to come in and work in those factories in the United States.
Oh,
So so
oh,
that's the other issue is that, there are very liberal policies for workers to come across the border and work
right,
here in the United States.
right, right,
So to what extent, we don't know. We don't know all of the behind the scenes
right.
actual negotiations and what the deals are and what the concessions are. So,
Mhm.
so I think that the U.S. is looking at this like right now, and Mexican government in agreement. Right now, we have almost a failed state at our southern border, Mexico.
Right.
Failed government, can't control their people, can't control the organizations committing all of these crimes.
Mhm.
And I think the fact that they're going to allow us to do more to help them crack down, that's a win for both countries.
Right, right.
And
And
financially, if Mexicans have a more liberal policy, which they've had a very liberal policy to be able to come to the U.S., work
mhm,
in the United States, work in the farm fields or
mhm,
in factories or wherever,
mhm,
that benefits both countries.
mhm.
So I think a lot of what Trump's policies are for Mexico and Canada is very beneficial to both sides.
Agree, agree. Yes. So it's a smart move for both side.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So we'll see. And about Panama Canal. So right now, Chinese government hold the deal. So what do you think American gonna do? Okay, Tom.
I didn't hear the first part. Did you say
I'm sorry.
Panama?
Yeah. You know that government, the Chinese government
Right.
had have stopped the deal and said that they need to do some investigation. It's an excuse, everybody knows. So in
Yeah,
this
when
situation,
President Carter made the decision
right,
during his presidency
mhm,
to give the Panama Canal to Panama,
right,
the deal was that they couldn't have other countries come in and take over parts of the canal, the choke points coming in or
mhm,
leaving,
mhm,
and that they had to, that it still was going to be up to the United States if Panama got out of line, that we could go back and take it over again. We
mhm,
built it. Our people died building it.
right,
Um, we spent met all the investment in it. All of a sudden, Jimmy Carter comes along. He's going to be Mr. Nice Guy,
mhm,
and we're looking at that. And our presidents since Jimmy Carter have basically
right,
allowed the Chinese to come in and occupy and control the
mhm,
entry ports or the exit ports, depending on which direction the ships were going.
mhm,
And and basically, now here comes Trump and he says, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to exert the agreement that was in the original treaty that if you do something, you, the government of Panama, if you
mhm,
do something like what you're doing, we're going to take it back.
mhm, mhm,
We build it. Our people died building it. Our investment went into making it. And if
mhm,
you're just going to give it away to China, no,
mhm,
no, we're not going to allow that. And I think many people thought, oh, Trump's not going to take over the canal. He's not going to do that. Well, guess what? Stand by and watch because that's exactly what he's going to do. And now even China is looking at it like, he's going to take it back.
mhm.
And
So China still don't want to cooperate. Well, Chinese government actually ordered to stop the deal.
yeah.
It seems like the Chinese government will not give it to U.S. easily.
Oh, I
So,
think they will because looking at the treaty, looking
uh-huh,
at the original agreement going back to Jimmy Carter,
mhm.
that's the deal. If you abuse this or if you think you're going to take over, we're going to come back. We'll take it back.
Yeah, I
And
agree with
and
you that if we do according to the agreement, yes, it's our right to do so. But when you deal with China, they have different logic or a different way to deal with things. So if they said, okay, I don't care what your agreement with Panama, that's between you and Panama, but we are operate this business right now. So we have a saying that if we like to make the deal to sell to you guys or not.
no,
If
I
they
think
do
they're not going.
this,
I don't think China's going to push that. They know that the U.S. has the right to take it and control it
okay,
and prevent them from controlling it. So I
okay.
think No, I don't think China's going to dispute that in the long run.
Oh, okay. That's a good news. That's a good news though. So we can talk. I think a talk is much better than fight or in the war, right? So but basically, according to the agreement, if a Chinese government do not allow the deal or do not allow Panama to go back to America or could go back to Panama, American can have military action for that. Is that true? Is that the agreement?
Yeah, I think China's trying to operate the locks at each end,
Right,
like only a couple of the many.
right.
And that's not going to be, they're not going to get away with that. I don't think the US, and I
Mhm,
think the more they look at what's happening and what will happen and
mhm.
realize, again, dealing with Trump, he's not going to let that go.
Okay,
And and they know that Trump, the American people will support Trump
right,
because of how many thousand people died, Americans died building it.
right.
Back in the day, 100+ years ago, when they were being killed by, mosquitoes carrying malaria and other deadly
Sickness,
fevers and snake bites and all of the other issues that killed workers.
right.
Um, I think that it's not going to push that.
Okay, that's good. So basically, Panama Canal is our property, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if
Well,
that's
Carter gives it to Panama to
uh-huh.
to basically administer it and run it. And
But
then Panama improperly allows China to come in and operate
right,
a couple of the gates, a couple of the ports. And that wasn't part of the original agreement.
right,
And that was all part of the idea that Carter was weak and all the other presidents that didn't want to confront China. They go, oh, okay, it's done. The other issue is that the canal, when it was built, they didn't anticipate the size of the ships that might need to go through it.
mm,
So you have the oil tankers that are too big for it.
right,
You have American aircraft carriers are too big.
mhm,
So the ships that, are not able to, every ship we own isn't able to go through the canal.
mhm,
But in the case of the United States, well, we have fleets on both sides of the ocean. So
mhm,
we have a Pacific fleet, based in San Diego and Honolulu. We have an
mhm,
Atlantic fleet based, largest naval base in the world in Norfolk.
uh-huh,
So giant aircraft carriers, and we have what, about a dozen. They don't need to go. We have them on both sides. We don't need to use the canal for them.
mhm,
And then we have all of the destroyers and other ships, submarines. Just we have them placed already on both sides. So I
mhm,
think that, and China's not in a position to really do that.
mhm.
They don't have that reach with their ships to be able to do that.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much. I do have some audience have a question for you, Tom.
Okay.
Um, Lots of people are asking that Cash Patel just have a FBI officer to become a Washington D.C. Field officer, the director of the field officer of Washington D.C. And this guy is not good to the J6 prisoners, patriotic. So why Cash have these guy to become the
I don't
director?
know. I just saw that headline right before we went on the
Uh-huh.
podcast. I don't know for sure. So I want to know more about that because I don't, it's hard for me to believe that he would appoint somebody into that office, Washington field office, that
Mm,
supposedly has made all of the comments about the J6ers and about
right,
that investigation and all that. So
right.
I don't know. I don't know to what extent what this is all about for sure.
Right. Or maybe we can wait for another week and see if this is true. We don't know if
Right,
this is true or not yet.
right.
Yeah. So talk about FBI. What do you have any news from the new FBI, what they are doing and where they're busy um for these couple of weeks? Because I just saw Bengino 3 days ago, he has his ex the Twitter, the X, and said that we are working on hire new people. We're trying to find a good new people work for FBI, and this is very important for us. And second, he said we're doing what we should do, and then if you don't see something, doesn't mean that we are not doing anything. So just be patient. About 4 days ago. So
Yeah,
what do you feel about that?
I would agree. I think that what they're trying to do, the vetting of the people that they're trying to hire
Mhm,
is difficult. It takes time to see who these people are. They don't
mhm,
want to let, the wrong people get in to the positions within the FBI. So it's going to be a difficult time for them to actually vet the people that they're looking at and make
right,
sure they don't hire the wrong people. And
right,
I think up till now, Bongino and Patel are well aware of the people that have been running the FBI almost the last 10 years
right.
and the evil that they have created,
Mhm,
including, what they've done in terms of J6 and many other issues that are negative based on senior executives of the FBI put in place by Comey or Christopher Wray. Both
right,
of those guys should be prosecuted.
mhm,
Um, so they have put a lot of bad people in wrong positions, sensitive positions.
right,
And the FBI, it's hard to actually know what somebody's going to do when they have the power. So they've got, a hard job right now vetting the
mhm,
people and seeing who should or should not be hired
mhm.
and what they've done in the past to indicate, where they belong.
Right, right. I remember when when Cash got confirmed and we had a program and I'm asking you what's the most important thing if he go to FBI and what he should do first thing. And you said find right people. It's so
Exactly.
important. Yeah, if he
And
cannot,
that's hard all the time. That's always very, very hard.
right,
So,
it will
uh,
take time though. Yeah.
you know,
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the audience say thank you to you about the question because yeah, it is a concern about lots of people see the news and why cash do that. And so thank you for your answer. It's actually we
yeah, one
don't
one other thing is that I've had people complain to me, well, how come we don't see indictments yet for all of the
right,
wrongdoing that FBI
right,
personnel did in the last 5 or 8 years?
right,
And the problem is that when you had the FBI being controlled by Christopher Wray
mhm,
um, and Bongino and Biden,
mhm,
that these investigations are complex and they take time.
right,
And when you see an indictment return, I've been involved in hundreds of very complex organized crime cases,
mhm,
national and international. And the amount of time when you're starting from scratch in an investigation,
mhm,
the amount of time it takes to get the paper documents, the evidence, the statements, the witness statements, and put that together, that takes months, if not years. And so you just don't, you're starting from zero. None of this has been going on the past couple of years at the senior level.
right,
So now you're getting people that are going to have to be moved into those positions
mhm,
um, and get evidence. And the evidence, obtaining the evidence and holding the grand jury meetings and all of the things it's going to take to present that evidence to have indictments returned is going to take some time. And that's where the problem is that and I'm included. I would like to see this go down very fast. You have these guys that have done many bad things at the
mhm,
management level, at the investigative level, and they need to be brought to justice.
mhm.
And we don't have that evidence right now. You can't just, we're trying not to be a banana republic and just pick out people we don't like and bring them to court. We want
We
the
follow the law,
evidence that
right?
will stand up
Right.
and show the wrongdoing. And that's going to still take some time.
Right. Well, thank you so much for clarifying that. I know that so many people, include myself sometime, it's just kind of wonder what's going on there. Why do we see that these bad guys have been arrested? And then, yeah, people cannot wait anymore, it seems like.
Yeah.
But thank you for explanation. It takes time, and we are setting an example of a good example of law and order example. And then this take time. And
Well,
you
you
may,
saw a good example of what takes time with lawfare when you don't do it right and you don't gather the evidence properly and document it and present it. And the classic is Trump. All those prosecutions of Trump that failed.
mm,
The people that hate Trump were also impeached. What's going on? Oh, good. He's been indicted. He's going to trial in New York and we got all these cases.
mm,
Well, what are those? Where are those cases now, and where are they going to be in the long run?
mm.
So that's
We
the problem.
right. We have to set up the case that can be exempt by the history, by the time, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. So the same situation, or at least similar situation, and of DOJ, right? It's DOJ system.
DOJ is actually probably a little more complicated than the agents because you have all of these prosecutors and many of them, that have been there a long time that shouldn't have been there. Uh, and that's a big problem to me. So some of the people that in DOJ that went after Trump, that went after all of the Republicans or people supporting,
Mhm.
stopping abortion clinics or whatever it was, or the going to school board meetings, like
Right.
in Loudoun County, Virginia, where I live now. All of these issues were coming up one after the other. And basically, Trump and Trump supporters have weathered the storm, if you will. They've lived through these issues. And, we'll see now where it goes in the long run if that's going to continue.
Right, right. And also today I saw in a X letter, X letter, we call Twitter, from Tulsi, the Director of National Intelligence, and she said that they have established a new department called the Directors Initiative Group, or DIG, is already hardworking on the to the text request by President Trump's intelligence related orders, such as ending wasteful spending, streaming, processing, identifying documents for declassification, crossfire Hurricane Biden's censorship of Americans, documents related to JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination, and more, and leading ongoing effort to explore the truth and roots out abuse of power and politicalization. So, is this the job for FBI or DOJ, or this is a job for the National Intelligence Center?
Well, the Director of National Intelligence is supposed to be looking at the intelligence from all of the 13 member organizations that comprise the intelligence community. So basically, you see what happens during the Biden administration when they try to leave it under the control of one element or under, DOJ or FBI or whatever, and you have these other organizations. So I think that, she's trying to be a little more diligent and spread this out so that no one component of the government can go bad and sabotage the work of everybody. And so I think that's where it stands with her, is that she's trying to be fair and allow all of these processes to go forward properly. And up until now, they've not been. And there's been no real recourse against trying to stop it.
Mm-hmm. So is that mean that the DOJ or FBI, maybe mainly DOJ, is not doing their job accordingly, or are not doing the job as the schedule? So Tulsi come out to help them. Is that the possible reality?
I don't know if I'd call it help them. I think they're what she and the DNI, what they're trying to do is establish fairness in all of these elections among all the different agencies. So right now, the agencies are spread out, not just at DOJ, but at the military, DOD, the investigations being conducted there, in the intelligence community, CIA, for example. So many of these agencies are pretty much have been on their own. And I think what she's trying to do is establish more fair policies with those agencies that they can't just go off and do what they want if
Mhm.
it's not fair to the people, to the
Um,
American citizens.
I see. So have a little interesting on the national intelligence, the group, for the mission of the Director of National Intelligence. What is her main job as a?
Basically, to set policy, set the goals and objectives of the whole community. It was originally what happened was the CIA director used to be the director of all intelligence agencies,
Okay,
including the FBI. Set the policies. Here's what they're going to go after. Here's what they're going to do. We're
mhm,
going to try to set their budget. And then eventually they decided that that's too much for the director of Central Intelligence to also be the director of National Intelligence. That's
mhm.
why this was created.
Okay.
So the CIA is supposed to be enough of a management problem in itself. Then you have the director of national intelligence is supposed to set the overall staffing levels, budget levels, policy levels for all of the 12 or 13 organizations that make up the U.S. intelligence community. And I
Mhm,
think that's where she's coming in now is realizing that the lack of coordination that's been going on
mhm,
and the lack of oversight, the lack of setting the parameters and the policies of what needs to be done
mhm,
is that they're trying to have a more coordinated effort between the director of national intelligence overseeing the whole community and the directors of each agency, whether it's a director of the FBI or CIA or you name it, National Reconnaissance Office, the components at the military, at DOD. You have all of these different agencies that have their responsibilities,
mhm,
and including the military.
mhm.
And so her job is to try to coordinate, make sure there's coordination among all the agencies.
Very important job, sounds like.
Very,
Yeah. So it's a little bit like HHS, and then you have NIH, you have CDC, and you have FDA. Is that a little bit similar?
yeah,
Okay, so she
very,
is above every, not
yeah.
above, but the same, right?
Well, she's supposed to coordinate among all of these agencies, so you don't have, some of them going off doing what they want to do that doesn't match the
Sure.
intelligence goals of the whole country.
Sure, sure. Well, thank you for explanation though. And then yeah, back to the assassination. So right now we know that he tried to buy his name is Ryan South. He Ryan Routh. He tried to buy the military missile from Ukraine, and it will involve some other people. Do you believe that the truth of the case will go bottom of line? Or because it involves a very high-end officers. So the investigation just have to stop. What do you feel about the case?
I don't know. I don't know why it would have to stop. I think that the basically during Biden administration, you have all of these weapons, all of this money, all of this equipment going to the Ukraine.
Hmm.
And Ukraine is already notorious for being one of the most corrupt countries in the world.
Hmm.
And that means many of their senior officials are very corrupt and took much of the cash that we sent them to buy vacation homes all over Europe and sell off the weapons that we were taking. They were creating basically weapons bazaars to sell all of this very expensive equipment. And as I said earlier, the example of that is seeing cartel members in Mexico
Right,
walking around with million
right,
dollar weapons.
right.
So that's a huge issue that they got away with all of that and continue to.
Mhm, mhm.
And So we'll see where all of these investigations are going to go regarding the theft of all of that equipment and the sale of it by
Right.
members of the Ukrainian government.
Right.
Senior officials like Zelensky, the president of the country,
Exactly.
buying vacation homes in Cyprus or Miami or
Mhm.
other parts of, living large, basically, or
Mhm.
having their family buy the properties living large. So
Right.
I think that in the long run, that's all going to stop.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I'm just thinking that if they find out that the one who behind the assassination is someone have a strong relationship with Ukraine government, then that's a big deal. I
Right.
don't know if how can we handle that if we find out the truth is like Ukraine is behind the assassination. That must be interesting.
Well, I think if they discover that evidence, that we'll see where they go with it and what they do with it. But
Right.
don't forget in that set of investigations, the intended victim was Trump, President of the United States. So it was more than just buying missiles or making money trafficking people across the border or trafficking fentanyl or any of those things that you actually have crooked officials agreeing with assassins to kill Trump,
Right.
and they did not accomplish it. I don't think Trump is going to do like he did in the first term and just let some of these issues slide, people
Mhm.
get away with it or not try to prosecute. I
Mhm.
think there's going to be more effort to go after these people now than there was then.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope so. We need to do something
Right,
different than the first term. Yeah.
right.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the information, and thank you so much to just clarify that what FBI going to do and how the processing is actually taking time. It is very important for people to know that there are something going on there, but it really takes time.
Yeah, and they want to do it right, so it's not just President Trump that was a victim of a lot of the illegal activity or attempted assassinations, but they went after Patel when he was working for Congress and for DOJ and Department of Defense. They went after Bongino when he was writing all these books that laid out Russiagate and some of that, the
Mm.
background that he was able to obtain. So you have people now in a position of power that were victims,
Right.
5, 10 years ago.
That's
These
true.
operators were against them.
Right. Right.
So we'll see how much gets done, within the next 6 months or a year. It takes time. It takes time to gather the evidence, document it, and then present it to a grand jury and have the
Mm.
grand jury decide to go ahead and return indictments against individuals and go
Mm.
after them.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And our audience say thank you for you. And then they said they have learned a lot from our broadcast about how American government works. And this is very important, especially to the first generation immigration. It's our duty to understand how this government
Right,
actually works.
right.
Yeah.
Great. So
Thank
thank
you.
you for having me. I appreciate it. And
Thank you so
thank
much.
you to your listeners who are watching and listening to our podcast.
Thank you. And then we'll see you next week.
We'll see you then.
Thank you so much, Tom.